put yourself out there and the evolution of the business. Again, the directories are valuable and important. We're just, to me, the next step in that you can submit on jobs as opposed to hope somebody finds you.
What's up, guys? Today's guest is a stunt consultant at Media Artist Group and the founder and president of StuntAccess.com. Please welcome to the JAMCast, Noelle Kim. Hey, how are you? Thanks for joining us.
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, this is a long time coming. We actually talked about this for quite a bit of time, so I appreciate you making the drive down here.
We've talked about it for ages, yeah. Yeah.
Busy schedules, though, which is a blessing post-COVID times.
Well, you must be important if I've driven here all the way from the beach.
I was going to say.
Why else would I leave the beach except for a legendary son of a legend?
I appreciate that. Where do you call home? What part of the beach?
Venice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Much cooler than the Valley.
Well, listen, a lot of my favorite people live in the Valley. I'm not sure why, but
it's cheaper than Venice. I'll tell you exactly why. It's way cheaper out here.
Yeah, and traffic tends to be a thing for me, but it's worth it. Ocean views at the beach, but you live long enough and you luck into good situations. So it wasn't about affordability. It was that I met the right person who said, do you want that place? And I got it at what they started paying 25 years ago.
Wow.
So, yeah.
What a blessing.
Yeah.
What a blessing. Yeah, my goal is eventually to move down towards the beach, so I'm very envious of where you're at right now.
All right, well, I'll help you.
That's the goal. That's definitely the goal. So I appreciate you coming down. I know you have like a full day of stuff going on, and so it's great that you could fit this in.
I do.
And, more than anything, I also would love to just shout out what we talked about in the very beginning of the episode, so you could kind of explain it in your own words. What is StuntAccess.com for all of our viewers and listeners, the majority of which are very much involved in the stunt industry?
Right. I mean, we're stunt specific. So as an agent for many years, I would see the breakdowns and I would see things for stunt actors and casting directors posting jobs for stunt actors, and jobs I knew would come from the stunt coordinator, but because the casting director had gotten the script first, they were listing stunt jobs. And so actors were coming in on that, and there's a lot of times when actors get cast in jobs they shouldn't be. And so every time I would see roles for exactly that, it would frustrate me. But there was nowhere to put anything like that for stunts. And so I had the idea for Stunt Access like 15 years ago, 20 years ago probably, when I was helping to run Jim Vicker's office.
Yes.
And so we had 6 or 7 different shows, and I'm like, this is crazy. Why is there not something like Actors Access for stunts? And so we started to put it together. Casey Peretti, who's brilliant, helped us as well.
Okay.
And it began, and then life happened. I left the country, blah blah blah, and so it sort of went fallow. And then when I came back, sadly, got back into the stunt business and the action side of things. And sadly, Dana Fatigante, who was a dear friend for a lot of years, passed away a couple of years ago, and she was the one, for those who don't know, owned and began Stunt Contact, which was an essential tool to those in stunts to know what productions are in development, active development, what stunt coordinators may be hiring. So essentially, it's sort of a marriage of those two things that allows a stunt performer to be more proactive in their career. The directories are all fantastic. Every stunt coordinator I know uses them. They're necessary, but for some stunt coordinators, they prefer maybe to anonymously post jobs and see who's out there.
Yes.
So we've had a couple of open calls from coordinators that are huge, but they don't want everybody to know what they're doing, but they want to know who's out there. And so this allows them to post jobs, allows stunt performers to submit on jobs, just like you would on Actors Access, except it's stunt specific. We're strictly union. You've got to be a member of in America SAG and Canada ACTRA.
Okay.
In other countries, they have different bodies that oversee. So the level of stunt professional is ascertained before you've got to at least be union to be part of the site. I know that was a very long-winded way of answering your question.
It was a very well put explanation as well.
Well, you're so sweet.
And so, like for those that are inquiring about it, is it free for stunt coordinators to post jobs, and is it a paid thing for stunt performers to have access to these listings?
So it's free for stunt coordinators to post jobs. It is free for casting directors to post jobs. It is free for productions to post if they're looking for stunt coordinators or second unit directors. The only people who pay are the people who are job seekers. You do get your first 30 days free. You do get, and as it stands now, it's $50 a month. If you are a member of a group, if you're military, we give you a significant discount because you've really paid your dues in the business, and that's sort of standard, you know. Military, there's no saying how much they've given, so it's only fair to give them a discount because we love them.
Yeah.
You know, and my partner Julie Michaels has her heart is, I think there's nothing she loves more than military and maybe German Shepherds. Those are
Yes.
the two, and so we both agreed that was really important. And we do actively reach out to casting directors and stunt coordinators and let them know, you know, please post. And so when you submit to a casting director on StuntAccess.com, it actually goes via email to the stunt coordinator, or it's housed right on the site. So they can go into the back end just like a casting director is able to on Actors Access. So we've got two formats of how you receive the submissions.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And how long has Stunt Access been formally running for at this point?
Formally, we started November 22nd, and then we were not fond of how the interface worked in the first rendition, so we scrapped the whole thing and you know, redid the whole thing so that it made more sense. And I think the difference was, do you know Vondiel Forbes?
Yes. Yeah.
So his fiance now, because he just got engaged.
Nice.
She's our web mistress.
Okay.
And so she's got a background in showbiz. She actually knows all the casting sites, and she knows she'd been involved in music, and she's actually a professor of web sciences at Occidental College. And I mean, she's brilliant, and what a difference it made in the site because she really gets it. Of course, we've got bugs and glitches that we're always working out.
As any tech site or anything tech involved in
anything tech involved,
Yeah.
right? And the mad desire to expand and grow, knowing that in today's market you cannot go to a set and hustle a coordinator.
It's dead in this day and age currently because of
Right.
COVID protocols. Yeah.
Right. And so how do you as a performer feel like you're being proactive in your business? If you can't go to set and try, then you're begging your friends to let somebody know and trying to find out what shows are happening and who's doing what, and so we feel like this allows the performer to get back in the driver's seat, as opposed to, again, the directories are fantastic, and we want people to include their directory information when they submit to jobs through us. But with us, you are in control. You can submit yourself to jobs that you actually know are hiring, when they're going to be working, if they're vaxxed or not. We always find out if they're vaxxed or not. We'd like to expand that list, and that's something that's in development right now, is actually coming up with like a stunt coordinator list and then letting people know which shows are vaxxed and which are not. I'm hoping that goes away soon, and that it's not a conversation we're having anymore, that if you can do the job, that should be what matters, and as long as you test negative, then
Yes.
that should be what matters.
100%.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a really, really cool thing. As you mentioned, the directories have become something that are such a staple of the industry nowadays. Before, it used to be people were with phone services. That
The
used to
answering
be
services,
yeah,
yes.
that used to be the staple of the industry back in the days. For those that don't know, which you would have an answering service that you could contact, and let's say you were even unavailable, they would answer and get in contact with you and let you know about jobs. And now it's fast forwarded to directories, and so yeah, I think Stunt Access is definitely merging into a new environment where you can actually submit to jobs, which is unique.
Well, let's go further back. You know, the beginning of the groups.
Yes.
So, you know, back in 1961, so the to me, the most prestigious stunt organization, simply because they were the first, was the Stuntmen's Association. Created, there we go, okay. Okay, and I have a very warm place in my heart.
Yes, I know why.
For SAMP. You do, and
Of
we'll
course.
talk about that. But then the only way you got a job in stunts was if you were a member of the Stuntmen's Association.
That's correct.
And have you seen the old Stuntmen's Association book?
Oh yes.
It's fantastic. It's like frat boys
Yes.
in their suits with their little badge on it. Stuntmen's Association.
Yes.
And so then the answering services happened because if you weren't in the Stuntmen's Association, but you still wanted to get calls for stunts, I think Teddy's might have been first, but I'm not positive.
Definitely one of the most notable ones for sure.
Yeah. Teddy's is sort of the oldest one, I hear about.
Yeah, same.
Joni's, Bill's,
Yep.
Missy's was the last rendition of it, and so the answering services sprung up as a result of, okay, how does someone who isn't in the Stuntmen's Association get a job? And so when calls would come in for Stuntmen's Association members, they'd be like, well, there might be somebody else who fits. I know that this so-and-so's not available. So then what happens? Cell phones come around.
Yes.
And what do you need an answering service for? Well, they're pagers and then cell phones.
Yes.
And then fax machines became email. And then the directories came out. Wally was the first one to do sort of the first non-group book,
Yes.
meaning anybody that was qualified, and he had his own standards by which he measured if they were qualified. Then we had the books, and then went online, and it became a directory. And again, Wally was the first one, I think, to do the online directory. And now there's, 5 in the U.S. that are?
Yeah, there's quite a bit.
Yeah, and there's a couple in Canada, and there's a few in Britain. There's one major one in Australia. But there isn't anything international. There isn't anything worldwide that allows you, if you as a coordinator go to Australia, how do you know who to hire for stunt professionals? Of course, you have someone shadow you who's qualified, but to me, it's time for there to be something global, so that if you do go to Australia, we're tapped into who the performers are in Australia, or at least can route you to, or whatever country. And so now I feel like Stunt Access is the next evolution of the business. You used to be able to hustle the set, and then 9/11 happened, and the shoot sheet went away.
Yeah.
And then Stunt Contact became the only real way to know who was out there, who was shooting, or if a friend called you and said, hey, I'm down here.
Yeah,
Gary
come
Davis
hustle.
is on set. Hey, I'm down here. Mickey Gilbert is here. Or Terry Leonard. And then you'd come down, and then sometimes that was a positive experience because the coordinator was really nice and kind, and other times you don't know what kind of day a guy's having or girl is having, and so you show up, and maybe they're a douche. And so it was kind of sometimes a bad experience. So to me, this is sort of a great way to proactively, put yourself out there in the evolution of the business. Again, the directories are valuable and important. We're just, to me, the next step in that you can submit on jobs as opposed to hope somebody finds you.
Yeah, I mean, people ask me all the time, like, what directory should I join, or what should I put my money to? And I tell them, if you can, all of them.
All of them.
Because if you add the numbers up, being a member of all of them is still less than one daily of work, generally speaking, if you combine it. So
yes.
Might as well get your name out there as much as possible. 2
dailies now, I think, because let's say us, the 5 directories.
Yeah.
Where else are you? The 5 directories, and I'm leaving something out that money-wise you should be paying for.
Your dues. But yeah. Other than that, though, but as far as exposure is concerned, like we talked about, just because of COVID and the lack of ability to sneak onto sets unless you have a test, it really has become of the utmost importance.
Yeah.
So.
And I left out the most important thing, me. When you join Stunt Access, you get me. If you have questions about anything, if you want someone to look at. So I specialize in the stunt performer, stunt actor side of things. But I know how the business works. I ran Jim Vickers' office for years, and fortunately, when the year he won the Emmy, I was in his office. So I like to think somehow a small part, maybe one of the hands of that Emmy belongs to me. But and he was gracious enough to say, that I deserved it as much as he did, which is, of course, the sweetest lie you can ever tell someone when they're doing the actual work. But oh God, I've forgotten. Where were we?
Oh, you were just talking about the most important thing is Stunt Access is they get access to you.
They get access to me. See, anytime I'm talking about myself, I tend to try to forget about it. But so they get me and they get Julie, because Julie, if you want to send in your reel or your stunt resume, she and PB will look at it and give you feedback. Where I'm concerned, if a lot of stunt performers make a mistake who also do acting, so when it comes to looking like an actor to someone who is casting, don't mention stunts. Mm-hmm. You could say you're a very athletic actor. Mm-hmm. Because the prejudice that exists with stunt coordinators who think you're just trying to get a job acting and mm-hmm. using the stunt door to get acting jobs. The same prejudice exists with casting. And 100%. Casting thinks you are trying to get an acting job, but you're only a stunt guy.
Yeah.
Because casting directors, I have this fight all the time. I use, how shall I, so the Richard Farnsworth argument, and I say to them, have you never heard of Richard Farnsworth? Lifelong stunt guy, lifelong, Diamond's dad. Mm-hmm. Richard was the original Diamond. Diamonds are a girl's best friend, yes. And then Diamond then started to steal all the women that came in the room because it's stunning. I think it's the eyes. But Richard Farnsworth was a 2-time Oscar nominee for acting. Once in supporting and once in a lead role. Yeah. And there was a day when you could be, it wasn't perceived as being detrimental to be athletic. You were just seen as whoever could play the role. I'd like to see that change. I'm seeing that change now. God bless Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah, I was going to say.
John Cena.
100%.
People are now realizing, and a little bit of Tom Cruise because he is very, very physical. Mm-hmm. Do we know him the way we know Cena and Johnson going through the ring, and we know they've put their body through things? To me, they've sort of changed the face of people's perception, particularly casting, mm-hmm. seeing them as a viable leads. Anthony Molinari just had a lead role. Fantastic. Michael Papajohn is incredible. Anybody that looks down their nose and thinks somehow because they've got a physical background or stunts is part of their background means they're not really an actor, F you.
Yeah.
I'm staunchly opposed to that attitude, and I'm out to change it. But in the meantime, a lot of stunt performers don't know you need to look a certain way to stunt coordinators. What you put out in front of stunt coordinators does need to look different than what you put out just to casting directors. If you're good at both, why not do both? But if you're shooting yourself in the foot, presenting yourself to a stunt coordinator as an actor and presenting yourself to a casting director as a stunt professional, you're screwing yourself on both ends. And so what I do is I will go over somebody's stuff with them and help them present themselves in the most effective way for them. If I see someone's got 2 or 3 stunt credits and I tell them you've got to be honest. The most important thing, if you want longevity in this business, you've got to be honest. You've got to tell a coordinator, listen, I don't have much, but here's what I'm good at.
Yeah.
Don't say you can do what you can't do. Don't, this isn't acting, this is stunts. On the acting side of things, if you put your stunt foot forward, then you are perceived as not being a great actor.
Yes.
So it's sort of a card I use at the end. If I'm pitching somebody for a job, it's sort of the card when you hear that the job, if it says the scene calls for an explosion, then you go, by the way, and then you could sort of plug in. They've been in those kind of scenes. They can handle that and do double duty. Did I answer that question?
No, 100%. And it is so funny though, like that double-edged sword of how casting perceives stunt people as not being able to act. But then there are so many times now as a stunt coordinator where when it comes to these final calls or final chemistry reads for huge acting roles, they'll bring me on as a stunt coordinator or other stunt coordinators to see if they have a background in movement or if they're moldable enough in order to be able to take on a role. And it's like, if you're going to eventually do this,
and how many stunt guys are there could do it in a second in their sleep?
Yeah. So it's good to hear that. But I even know myself that I was guilty of that back in the days where I didn't have a separate resume for acting separate from my stunt resume until I signed with someone theatrically, and they made me completely dumb down my resume, which had hundreds of stunt credits, to just maybe 5 to 6 credits where I had featured roles for acting. And, at first I thought, the more credits I have, the better. And they're like, nope. it's exactly what you talked about, which is for
Right.
some reason there is this, this perception that they have of you. And so you basically just have to get your foot in the door, and then once the door's open, you can shove it down their throat.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. The other mistake a lot of stunt actors make is that they will include roles that had dialogue on their, let's say, their Actors Access, and except they came through the stunt door. Casting never saw them, didn't close their deal, never met them. But they did actually have an acting role. It's just it came through the stunt door, and they were approved by, if it's television, most likely a producer, if it's film, the director. And so they will put down this credit on their Actors Access, and it should say, I tell them all, you have to say handpicked by director or handpicked by producer. Because a casting director, when they read it, if they don't know you and you've put down that you have a credit working on a show that they cast, they think you're an extra.
Yes.
Gilding the lily.
Wow.
Pretending that you've seen this, right? Featured role, and that's just an extra.
Totally.
Saying that they had it. And no offense to extras, they may have ruined the Screen Actors Guild. In fact, I think they did when they let them all join. No fault of their own. But
and the voting rights, but it's a different topic. Yeah.
That's a different topic. Don't get me started. But that's another mistake that's made. And so when you join Stunt Access, you get me. Send me an email. I'll walk you through. I'll demo the site for you. The difference with us is that you can create different resume pages. So you could have one account and create different resume pages. Let's say you're a driving expert. This just happened. A gal just got hired on a show, and she had happened to have played a dominatrix in something else, and they were looking for a dominatrix. A stunt gal who was in a fight, a little bit of acting chops, but mostly, you had to do the fight scene and sort of sell the activity. And because she already had pictures and stuff, she created a page, an additional stunt resume page that said stunt dominatrix. And so she included the pictures of previously being cast as that, and then included all of her stunt credits. But because she was able to customize how she presented herself to the stunt coordinator, I think it made a difference. If she didn't have the chops, then who cares if she's played the role before? She had the chops. And so that allows you, let's say someone posts a job for driving. Maybe you want to have a resume page that is less general and more specific to driving.
Totally.
Right. There are some people that are absolutely qualified to work in more than one place. There's I know a couple of Brits that work in the UK when the BSR calls them, but they're also fully legal to work here. And so they can create a resume page that serves them in England, but then also that serves them in the US by creating a separate, an American one, so to speak.
Okay.
If you have children, family members are free as well. Another great story. There was a snowball fight. I think this was maybe on one of Julian Peewee's shows, or one of our coordinators. And so they needed two teenagers in a snowball fight. So it wasn't stunts, but you want a little tougher kid, right?
Totally, yeah.
And so we ended up, two of our members, Jeff Wolf, who's now the president of the Stuntmen's Association.
Yes, back for another term, yeah.
Yes. And who I love, and who is also a brilliant actor, by the way.
He's been a guest on the JAMCast. We love Jeff.
Yeah. I mean, talk about multi-talented.
Totally.
He, James Liu, the list is too long. But Jeff Wolf's son got hired for it,
nice.
and then Jerry Haberstad's son.
Nice.
Which both came as a result of us having access to. And so we decided, so if you have a child that you want to get into the business but you stay in control, you can create a resume on your account and submit them if anything like that comes up again for free. It's included in the account.
Super cool.
Which I think is cool.
Yeah, that is unique for sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people would probably just, based on your knowledge of stunts and the industry and the inner workings of it, would assume that you had a background in stunts yourself. But we'll be able to get into your background now, which is great, which I know you have never been a stunt performer before, but you've been closely associated with stunts, dating all the way back, if I'm not mistaken, to helping Jean LaBelle in some sort of way. How did that, I guess, kickstart your entrance into the industry?
Sure. Well, I used to be Noelle LaBelle, so Jean LaBelle is family to me. Not by blood, though. It was wrestling shtick. We were at I was not yet married to Steve Kim.
Okay.
Stunt guy, if anybody knows him, real great guy.
Yes.
And with whom I have a child. He's the most handsome son in the world. Of course. But Gene was, I was producing and casting at the time.
Okay.
And someone was like, well, Gene's trying to write a book. And so then I ended up meeting Gene, and we hit it off, and English, I do well with words. I'm good with English, and so I sort of acted in an editorial capacity. And as we started writing the book, Steve's was his sort of right-hand man in the dojo.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was an involuntary uke more times than I care to mention. The times I ended up sideways on the couch like this, tapping out totally out of the blue. I'm like, Steve, I don't want to grapple.
Too good.
So we went to the Chuck Norris Invitational, or maybe it was, I don't know, anyway, it was in Vegas.
Okay.
And so we all walked in together, and we're carrying Gene's luggage and all his stuff, and again, Steve is his right hand, so he was doing classes there, and we walk in, and so for whatever reason, and he was getting some lifetime achievement, and all this press was there, like Inside Kung Fu. I guess everybody was sort of arriving at the same time, so it was a very casual red carpet-ish kind of thing, and that all the press was waiting for somebody to come in the door.
Okay.
By press, I mean Inside Kung Fu, Black Belt Magazine,
Yes.
and every other martial arts, whoever thinks, you know how many publications are out there that last a
Yes,
couple of months, so
totally.
they were all there. And so then they start asking questions, and they say, Gene, how did you, who's this? Like they asked Gene a bunch of questions, and they've taken pictures, and we're both in the pictures, sort of like this. Like, what is going on? We're just trying to check into the hotel. So then he says, well, this is my illegitimate North Korean dog-eating fighter pilot son, Steve Kim LaBelle. And then, because he had this whole wrestling thing about how Steve came to be, was that he had been at war in Korea.
Okay.
And he'd been captured, and he was tied up in the middle of town, presumably Seoul. I don't know. And or maybe it was it had to be North Korea. See, and so he's tied up in the middle of town, and he saw the most beautiful woman in the entire world, and he chewed his way out of the ropes. And he made mad, passionate love to her that night, and she's the most incredible, fantastic, wonderful woman. And then he was somehow escaped Korea and got back to America. Never knew he had a child until Steve crashed his plane in
That's too good.
in the park across the street from him. And so then he goes, and this is his wife, Noelle LaBelle. And I'm kind of like, what are you doing, Gene? So then people kept calling me Noelle LaBelle.
Wow.
I go, Gene, this is crazy. And he goes, keep the name. People will answer your phone calls. And
So funny.
And so I was Noelle LaBelle for a little bit, and then I officially married Steve. And even though Gene was our best man.
Wow.
Yeah. Gene was the best man at our wedding. He was. I had to take the name Kim.
Yes.
And so,
understandably so.
Yeah. So Gene was how I got started with everything on the stunt side of things.
Crazy.
Yeah, he was the intro. He said, "Hey, they're looking for a secretary at the Stuntmen's Association," and I said, "Well, I'll help them find one." Like I was producing and casting. I wasn't a secretary. I go, "I'm not a secretary, Gene." No. Well, just go talk to him. I'm not. I'll help them find someone, but I am not a secretary, Gene. So I walked in and spoke with them, said the same thing to them. I said, I'm more than happy to help you find, well, what do you think you could do for the organization? And so I gave them a rundown of what I thought, if I was there, how I would, what I thought I would bring to the table, benefit-wise, or what I thought would be a good idea for someone running the place, which included casting, publicity, promotion, assisting the any member who was there to get jobs. After all, it was a professional organization, and wasn't work the most important thing? And isn't someone the most miserable when they're not working? So let's make everybody happy.
Wow.
So then they gave me VP of Operations of the Stuntmen's Association. To this day, I remain the only female to ever hold an executive position at the Stuntmen's Association. So either I did so great no one's been able to even measure up, or I did so horribly they said we're never doing that again. I'm not sure which it is, but it was an amazing time. It was a really amazing time. I met the best people. They're really, really great guys out of that place. Probably the listen, anytime you could say that Terry Leonard is a friend,
Yes.
and you know, he's why I'm a member of the World Stunt Academy. He was like, of course she should be a member. I've never done a stunt. Like that.
Yes.
Terry Leonard would say that is truly touching, and I'd like to think I've worked hard to, you know, to earn that position. That's also the same time, Pee Wee was a member there, so I met Julie 25 years ago.
Wow.
George Rugi, who had just come off of Lord of the Rings, the trilogy. So when he walked in, it was like, oh, you know, because I thought Lord of the Rings was fantastically done. And then so every day to hear stories about how that was made, or to hear conversations like, well, the third time I broke my neck, and I was like, okay, these people are different.
100%. Oh, that's crazy. And so do you still have a position with the World Stunt Association, or do you still?
I'm still a voting member at the World Stunt Awards, yeah.
That's awesome.
Do I call people to get advice on you know, voting for the best high work?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't do stunts. So I never pretend to say that I'm qualified to say whether that's a good stunt or not. I am qualified to say if you've worked for if coordinators will, if coordinators not condone you, but if coordinators say you're good,
Yeah.
and enough coordinators say you're good, then I believe you're good.
Totally.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, that's super, super cool. And so, like, off the back end of all these positions, I know that one other part of your life that you're more focused on Stunt Access now, but I know at one part of your life, you were also very much heavily involved as being an agent and a representative of a significant amount of stunt actors within our industry.
Yes. They're my favorite.
And so how did you break into that, and for how long were you an agent for a bunch of stunt actors?
So to this day, if you call me and you need help with a contract, I could still get you looked after. You know what I mean? I still have my associations with Media Artist Group. Rafael Burko is in my opinion, you know, one of the best. His ability to negotiate and really look after people is second to none. But for now, I feel like I'm an agent of everybody on Stunt Access. As far as with the agenting, here's what I know. You need someone who believes in you, and I really believe in actors who are perceived as the underdog because, you know, they do stunts. Somehow they're seen as not being legit actors, and so I kind of get off on that fight, you know, and I feel it feels discriminatory to me. And so that was being an agent. That's sort of what I liked, was being able to go, see, yeah, like this, you know. Oh, by the way, he's done stunts for the last 20 years. What?
Yeah.
You know, after they've cast him. Or the other thing that happens is a lot of agents don't know how to negotiate a contract that is an acting contract that involves stunts.
We talked about this briefly.
Yes. Why should you be screwed out of your adjustments because you got hired as an actor? And most agents don't know, and I'm giving away secrets, but what the hell? That's what we're here for, right?
You're welcome, audience.
So it's really a matter of an agent insisting, and this has been a regular conversation, and it's always dependent on what the coordinator prefers.
Okay.
Some stunt coordinators are totally fine with you negotiating whatever you want with the casting director. Other stunt coordinators are very specific in how they handle their things.
Yes, very much so.
So let me be very clear that even as an agent, I was always sensitive first and foremost to how the stunt coordinator wanted it done. Why? Because if I'm serving my client, then I don't want to, for the sake of getting an extra nickel for my client, never have that coordinator hire them again. It's tough. It's hard. You know, everybody's different. So sometimes you negotiate a contract. I call the coordinator and go, hey, they want him for this role. Most likely the coordinator may have suggested him for it. I know that stunt adjustments are not guaranteed, but you know, did you budget perhaps anything for this?
Totally.
And sometimes they'll say, yeah, I budgeted a $500 bump for that. I'll go, okay, so then we've got two choices. Can I get him an acting contract that adds the clause he's got the right to have his stunt adjustments added on the days of work, generally on the Exhibit G, right? Or can we add that 500 to his day rate and let
Yes.
casting know it's all covered?
Okay.
So those are the two kind of ways to do it. And sometimes stunt coordinators just want it to be a stunt contract, and they don't get the acting credit, even though they're acting. Personally, I think if you have a choice between stunt credit or acting credit, take the acting credit. In the long run, you're not going to be able to do stunts until you're 75. You're going to be able to act until you're 75. So
True.
anything that leads to that longevity, in my opinion, is better in the long run for the performer. But if a stunt coordinator is insistent, then you have to defer to whatever makes them happy. They've got to do whatever they need to do the job the best way they know how. So we support that, whether I personally agree or not with how they do it. More casting directors are now being open to the clause
Okay.
that you have the right to negotiate the stunt adjustment.
Oh, that's cool.
And then it'll be added to either the Exhibit G, or some coordinators have standing methods that they do that. They themselves will say, I want to make sure they get their adjustments, and they'll make sure the clause is added. So you close the deal with casting. So the reason I say that is because stunt contracts and acting contracts end up, if you ever have to dispute anything with SAG, for whatever reason, when an agent has handled it or you have an acting contract, it's treated differently. Again, stunts are treated like second-class citizens in many cases, and it pisses me off. And so I'm always thinking, what's the solution?
Yeah.
How do we make sure that we prevent them being screwed with?
Totally.
So with an acting contract, there's no question. With a stunt contract, oh, we didn't see you. You weren't on camera. You
Totally.
whatever, all the crap that you hear, right? That you have to jump through. It's offensive. But it happens. The other thing that happens is, let's say you're on a huge production, and this maybe 10 years ago this happened. I had a major actor who was on the same project with someone who went under a stunt contract.
Okay.
I knew it had gone under a stunt contract, even though I wanted it on an acting one, but that's what that's how it went down. So then I get an excited call from the actor. They had just gotten a check just under $50,000. It had sold into another country.
Wow. Okay.
Major deal.
Yeah.
Stunt actor never saw shit.
Really?
Never saw it.
Wow.
When it sold into another country, and I'm not going to suggest this is every project, but it seemed to me the only difference was the contract, and that because it was an actor, they didn't dare detach it when the sale went through.
Mm-hmm.
If you buy a project and you want to re-air, how do you save yourself money? Well, certain contracts maybe fall off, and you're paying less in residuals, and unless you fight for it, or you know that it's airing in Thailand or China or Russia or wherever it may be airing. If you don't know, but there's a certain, I don't know whether it's fear, but with the acting contracts, SAG makes sure those continue to get paid for the life of the project.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And so what advice would you have? There is probably a small percentage of our audience, maybe even a large percentage of our audience, that are stunt performers wanting to break into the acting side. What advice would you have for them? Would you tell them to create a separate demo reel of short acting clips? Would you have them create a separate resume?
Train. It's just like stunts. Okay. Train. Learn your craft. The acting craft is not as physically demanding, but absolutely emotionally demanding. And you have to commit yourself to that craft. And you have to accept some people aren't good at it as much as they'd want to be.
Yes.
So you have to be open to hearing, feedback from professionals in the business. Take acting classes. Start learning as much about the craft as you can. Get input from people. In order to get, it's tough. How do you get acting roles without an agent submitting you?
Totally.
How do you get an agent without acting roles? So Stunts actually ends up being a decent way to get lines and be on set and pay attention. When you're on set, be on set.
Yeah.
Watch the actors. See what they're doing. Pay attention to because everybody's got a different process. Don't make best friends with them. Don't be annoying. Watch, listen. See how they're doing their craft. It's hard, the process, the steps it takes. I think learning to deliver dialogue, even only a few lines, it's an art form, it's a craft. There's some good teachers out there. There's some teachers you go see every week, like a psychologist, and there's other teachers who are like hypnotists, who basically in 2 or 3 classes can flip the switch.
Wow.
So I've got one that I'm really fond of. He doesn't want $1 million. He's sort of like Bob Newhart in that Stop It sketch.
Okay.
He does $5 and stop it.
Totally.
You know the one I mean?
Totally.
Right. But learn your craft. Get your head into that space. At some point, you divide yourself. You're the actor on one side and you're the stunt person on the other side, to hopefully, ideally, marry the two together at some point. Mm-hmm. But you have to be as concerned with getting good at it and accepting if you're not.
And I think I know the answer to this question, but I just want to ask it just so it's verbalized and put out into the community. Is there a need to have several different types of headshots within different looks that you could potentially be put up for in certain roles?
Several different, okay. Well, this is now you've asked a question.
Yes.
So beards are really popular now.
Okay.
But if you have pictures of yourself clean shaven, and the role calls for clean shaven, and you're willing to shave your beard for it, then you submit the clean shaven photo. Yeah. As a stunt actor, generally your headshots are this.
Yes, very stern looking.
Right,
yeah.
Because every story told is good versus evil.
Yeah.
And stunts are evil. Typically, the characters that are played. The good is killing the bad, right?
Totally.
Shooting the bad, fighting the bad. And so we want to know that you are a bad guy.
Totally.
Whereas as a theatrical actor, you generally want to be to bare your soul, and it's more about what's in your eyes and your ability to convey exactly who you are. Stunt coordinators like selfies because they want to know what you look like today.
Yep.
Don't submit a selfie to a casting director. What are you, stupid?
Yes.
You need professional headshots done. Here's the most important thing. Looks, all that stuff, I think that's less important because now when casting directors, if you're submitting through Actors Access, or even if your agent is submitting you, if they're not email pitching you, it's a little thumbnail. Mm-hmm. So really the ability to make your essence stand out is the whole thing. So when you get headshots done, don't do the modeling thing. Okay. Ask your friends which one looks the most like me.
Ah, okay.
There was an actor I talked to once, and they had this really cool scar on their face, but all their photos were like this.
Oh, shying away from it.
Yeah, or I should say a scar here, so that when you go like, right. And he walked in, and I go, what are you doing? You have this beautiful thing. Like, this is what makes you unique and different from anybody else.
Totally.
I want to see do shadowing. You know what I mean? Lighten so that you're like, it worked. He started to get cast all the time. And someone else who had this horribly pockmarked face. Mm-hmm. And they would Photoshop their pictures. And I'm like, do the pockmarked. I mean, Edward James almost has some texture.
Yeah.
It hasn't, stay focused on that it's about anything that is different and unique about you.
Okay.
Or who you really are. Have the balls to look into the camera and just be you. Casting directors want to see some sort of spark of, ooh, they look interesting. They're looking into your soul, kind of. Stunt coordinators, it's a different thing. They, physically they want to see how you're going to look on set, what you look like today. Mostly because people used headshots that were 10 years old, and then they'd show up on set, and you'd go,
yes, I've seen this happen.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, totally.
It's crazy. So as far as, to me, photos of different types and different outfits, commercially that's helpful. If you're a skateboarder, then you should have a skateboarding picture. And if you're being submitted on it, you're helping your agent be able to submit you for the activity, that you specialize in. If you're a biker, do a picture on a bike. It doesn't hurt. Most agents, though, want 4 or 5 pictures on the back end to choose from. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, they hate submitting you because it's like, and you literally, when you're submitting as an agent through the breakdowns, you want to submit first. You want to be the first one because when you're casting, because I've been a casting director, I know this is how it works. You'll go in and look like half an hour after you posted the job.
Totally.
And everybody who's there, you're like, oh, and they get looked at the most. And then what happens is, blah, 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 and it's pages and pages and pages and pages. And so the speed with which you're submitted is important, and the good agents submit you. For television, should be submitted like that. For films, yeah, they take their time with films. Pilots, they really take their time with pilots because that's a puzzle you're putting together, and you want exactly the right pieces. So they do take more time with pilots, and there are more opportunities to get juicier roles where pilots are concerned because you may be the missing piece, and they don't care if you're a name. They want to show proof of concept with a pilot, right?
Okay, yeah.
Does that am I answering your question?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Also have a slate. If you've got your stuff on Actors Access, make sure you slate yourself. Because the order in which a casting director sees people that are submitted is people with reel, slate, resume. Mm-hmm. After that comes reel, resume. After that comes resume. So it's in those chunks. So everybody who's got a slate, a reel, and headshots will be top of the list that I see as a casting director.
Okay.
If you're not slated, you'll be seen, but you're after everybody who's got slates.
Totally.
And then after that, and if you don't have a reel, what are you doing?
I was just going to ask about that.
What are you doing?
For those that haven't had the opportunity to get any actual roles on television or on the big screen, what do you suggest they can make the reel of as far as like length of it? Should it be self-taped stuff that they've done with friends or their coaches? Or what do you suggest for someone just starting off?
Yeah. There are some classes that offer on camera.
Yeah. And
you can at least get some recordings because something that shows you talking is valuable.
Okay.
And even a role that's like an under fives, they just want you to look the way they want you to look. Mm-hmm. So there's under fives you can probably get without a reel, but you want something that shows you talking. The quickest way is student films.
Yep.
I know the quality's not great, but you could have a beautifully shot short film, and 3 years later, because they blew all of their money on the actual shooting and can't afford post.
Yeah.
And so you don't even look like that anymore. So you put all this great work, and I bet the footage looks great. But if you don't get it for 3 years, if you actually get it, tell me how really good that is for you.
Yeah, totally.
Whereas with a student film, at least they're on a deadline. They have to. It's an assignment.
Yep.
They have to hand it in by this certain date. So even if the footage is bad, at least it's shot by somebody else, and at least you're getting it in a timely fashion.
Totally.
Because if you're going to work for free, at least get your footage.
100%.
So student films are a great way to go. Anybody that is doing projects for any of the festivals, if you know that they're doing this for a festival, then you know there's a deadline.
Yeah.
You're going to get your footage.
Totally.
If you do anything that you know is going to be great, but again, they maybe can't afford post, you cut a deal for yourself that says, I want my footage. Mm-hmm. I promise I will only use it for self-promotion, and in fact, your SAG contract says you have the right to your footage. You just have to let them know if it's just for promotional purposes. You're not going to post it on YouTube. You're not going to post it on Vimeo. It's not going to go anywhere publicly. It's strictly being housed on Actors Access or sent to casting directors only. Or stunt coordinators, if it's an acting job that you want, a stunt acting job.
Okay.
But cut that deal up front.
Yeah. Protect
You're allowed
yourself.
to. If it's copy credit meals, ask for your footage. Mm-hmm. And then do you have to ride the director for probably months and months and months? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. But
those are the ways you can get footage. I think the backyard and the self-tape footage, no.
Good to know. Yeah.
No, that it looks like you've never gotten a job. Even a poorly shot student film shows somebody hired you.
Yes. One of the last major questions I have, what's the importance, if at all, of social media presence when it comes to getting some of these acting roles and standing out to casting directors?
It's a thing.
Okay.
It's a thing. You know, I have this talk when I'm demoing Stunt Access with people, is I have this talk and I just say, you could have whatever personal, political, religious, any beliefs you want. Start a private Facebook, start a private Instagram, start a private that you own, that is nobody has access to. And even name it something else. I've got a friend who's a famous rock star, and he's got a different name on Facebook than his name so that nobody can find him. And then he's got his fan page.
Yeah.
It will shoot you in the foot if you again believe what you. I will fight for your right to believe and do whatever you want. Professionally speaking, in today's day and age, the First Amendment is not a thing. It's just yes you have the right to the First Amendment. Say whatever you want. Be aware of the fact though that some of your beliefs may lose you work.
Yep.
And is that worth it? Keep your beliefs. Just compartmentalize. You know, when you go meet your mom, you don't swear. When you go to church, you're a different person than if you're drinking beer with the boys and watching the game. Understand in a professional capacity, your numbers matter. Get as many followers as you can.
Okay.
They do look at that, or at least keep a clean social media presence.
Okay.
Public facing. Your private one, I don't care. Nobody cares what you do privately. You have a right to your private life. But be aware, yes, it is something they look at. It is. We're asked regularly, can you send us their socials?
Wow. That is good to know, because I
Yeah.
feel like it's something that didn't exist back in the days, but obviously now you hear stories about, TikTok stars getting leading roles in films and TV shows or pilots just because of their following. And so
Yeah.
it's good to know that it does trickle down even down to smaller roles and things
You know
like
why? Because the producer you're talking to, his daughter is all about TikTok.
that. Totally.
So he'll come home and he'll go, oh, we were looking at, she's like, Dad, you need to get so-and-so. And he'll go, who? And she'll go, oh, this guy. And next thing you know, she's turned him on to it.
Wow.
So you have to understand, producers go home, directors go home. Their kids are doing this stuff.
Yes.
And I think that's a lot of, and casting is getting younger. The assistants that come in are like, you know who you should look at for this? And so the standard way of casting has changed. The pool has expanded. And so, be aware that how you present yourself and that your political and religious beliefs can be detrimental. If you're, just be aware. I think you have to be aware. It is a thing.
Totally. 100%.
There's people I haven't represented because I've gone and looked at their socials
Wow.
and been like, yeah, you have a right to believe that, but I, a complete stranger who you're trying to get to rep you, should not have access to that.
Yeah.
Why do I need to know that? I want to know that you can do the job.
Totally.
What the hell does any of this have to do with it?
Yeah, it's crazy. We've seen it so many times in not only just in the entertainment industry, but just across politics and across life and things like that. How what's out there is out there for the world to see, and so you definitely have to be very smart about the way that you curate it and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
Super cool.
It's sad but true. But don't deny yourself. If you feel strongly about those things, continue. Just start a separate private account.
Totally.
And only invite the people you know that it's safe to share those philosophies with. Me, I personally don't care as a friend. I may have different political and religious beliefs. I still love them.
Yeah.
But if you're a complete stranger trying to get me to rep you or trying to get me to look at you in some capacity, and I don't know you from Adam, then it's like, I don't love you yet. I don't know you yet. And I don't want to now because that you think that slapping me across the face when I come to just check out what you're up to, I don't know. Maybe I'm the one with the problem. I don't know.
No, it's just good. You don't want to have a closed door before a door is open. So you might as well do as much as you can in order to keep those doors open. So.
Yeah. I think for the young stunt performers, some I've seen seem to be more involved and more caring about their social media presence than they are with getting the skills required. And that's backwards.
Yep.
That's so backwards.
Yeah.
Great, you have 100,000 followers, but who are you? You're going to hurt yourself. You're going to hurt someone else. Just because you could talk a good game doesn't mean you could do the job. Like, you've got to learn the skills.
Yes.
First and foremost.
Yes, 100%.
Because your social could be squeaky clean, but if you're a terrible actor, I don't care if you have 1 million followers. I'm not interested. Or, from a stunt coordinator perspective, some people are posting things that they think is cool, and they have no idea that they look like. The person who's doing the same move, Arnold Chun's a great example. That guy, before anybody even knew he was doing 720s, back when 720s were not a thing,
Yeah, totally.
unless you were on wires, and then Arnold Chun did it without wires, he did it 1,000,000 times. He did it 100,000 times before he ever let anybody shoot him on camera doing it.
Yes.
That's where it's at. Learn your art form, whether you're an actor or whether you're a stunt performer. That's the most important. Social media is secondary. Your pictures are secondary. The reel is secondary. All of that is secondary to having the skills required to get and keep the job. In stunts more so than anything, because people can get hurt and God forbid killed doing even the most simple things that someone without the experience doesn't know they're taking their life in their hands when they do it.
Yeah. 100% agree.
Right, and so safety is safety first. Always, always, always.
Yes, I'm so glad you said that last part. I'm such a firm believer in that, as well as, putting your best foot forward and not always having to post everything just because you feel like you need to show people. We don't even allow people to use their cameras in our stunt workshops.
Yep.
Whereas there's a lot of stunt classes you'll see where they film every single class and they're tagging themselves and tagging the class. And I'm like, I don't know if you realize this, but we share these bad videos with each other as coordinators, not necessarily in the best light, but it's just like I tell people this all the time.
Yeah.
Like, you don't see that many people posting footage of them in acting class.
Yeah.
Maybe occasionally they'll post a very good audition they felt solid about, but generally speaking, you wait until it's polished, you've booked a role, or you have a reel clip. So the same thing should be held in regards to your training sometimes. So.
Why are you sending me? I see this all the. Oh, this is one of my pet peeves. People who post their self tapes.
Yes.
You didn't get the job.
I was going to say, if you got the job, a little different story.
Right. Or the other exception, I even posted about this because it just finally got my craw. I saw so many people posting self-tapes. I'm glad you were proud of it. That's wonderful. But if you didn't get the job, then you just posted your failure.
Yeah, 100%.
Use it for yourself. Post it, and by the way, if you're posting a self-tape on a project and you don't own that material, then that's screwed up on another level.
Totally.
You don't have the right to post that self-tape.
Oh, yeah.
And if as we were talking about people looking at footage, if they go looking at social media, if they go and look and they see you posting something that even if it's out, you don't have a right to.
Yes, agreed.
That material does not belong to you.
Yes, 100%. Such a good point.
Right.
Such a good point.
But more importantly, so the only out there is sort of Tom, Loki, Tom Huddleston, right?
Yeah.
So he posted, and I think it was even the studio, of him trying out for Thor. So he didn't get Thor, but he got Loki.
He's in the MCU, though. Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
So to me, that's sort of the one, okay.
Yes.
You didn't get the job, but you got the job.
Yeah, exactly.
They loved you so. And that happens. You'll try out for one role, you'll get hired for another one.
Yeah.
To me, if somebody posts footage, posts a self-tape, and they didn't get the job, but they got another job on the same production with the same success,
Yeah.
that did get you the job. Not the
Totally.
job you went for, but it got you the job. So yeah, post that. But yeah, that drives me crazy when why do you need to show someone before it is perfect?
Yes.
Get it right. Learn your craft. Learn your skill. Video is forever. Even if you delete it, it's still, somebody still got it. Those tweets that people are getting canceled on that was posted 10 years ago and they deleted. Do people not know that there is, what is it, the Wayback Machine?
Yeah,
or
it's
there's
still out in the ether somewhere.
It's
yeah.
still there.
Yeah.
If it went up on a website for a week, you can go to, there's archives. They still exist.
Totally.
They are still housed there. So, yeah, I think, did that answer that question?
100%.
I'm just all about tangents, aren't I?
No, it's been invaluable advice answering all the questions I had. And,
Sorry.
And I really appreciate you taking the time to come on here and share your unique perspective. As we talked about, not only being able to, give expertise as far as someone that had been a casting director to an agent, but also someone that understands, stunts and the unique way that those two worlds eventually can merge. I really appreciate it. And I know we've talked about potentially collaborating and having some opportunities for people out here in the world to come hear more at length and in depth about some of the things that you have an expertise in. So going to hopefully make that happen for everyone in the near future.
I would love that. I would really love that. I'd love to have, something regular that people can come out and ask whatever questions they want, and I'll answer to the best of my ability.
Hell yes.
I feel like there's a handful of legitimate people that do what you do.
Thank you.
Very small handful that do what you do.
I appreciate it.
And so getting as much information as possible is important. And so, yeah, I'm definitely interested in that.
Well, we'll definitely have plans on making it happen. Anyone out there, feel free to leave a comment or send us an email and let us know what your interest is in that. And obviously, the more feedback that we get, the more that it will give us the chance to know exactly what to target.
Except for the comments about how fat I look. Please don't
You're
send
so
those.
funny.
I don't want those comments.
Hilarious.
But I do want comments about my fabulous
Yes,
shoes.
we had to make sure the shoes are visible.
Yes.
Well, I really appreciate you coming by. This is a question I ask everyone before we get out of here, so I can't let you escape without asking you as well. Where do you personally see yourself 5 years from now, and where do you see yourself 10 years from now? And that could be personal, or let's even open it up to Stunt Access, if that makes sense.
Great question.
Thank you.
I think it's on a yacht somewhere because
Hey.
I love boats. But in 5 years, I would like to really help people to get as much work as they possibly can. That's really important to me. In 5 years, that's a good question. I would like Stunt Access to be the de facto, one-stop shop, expanding into every way that can help a stunt performer possible. Mm-hmm. Also, you had said talk about my expertise. I mean, some of it you have to understand is opinions I've arrived at. So I don't want someone to think I know everything, because I don't. These are just, if I find new information tomorrow, I change my mind about that thing.
Yeah,
so just know that. So expertise, I don't know. I feel
it's through experience, though.
Experience. I'll take that. Yeah, experience and people arrive at their opinions through years of experience. So I suppose that's made me very opinionated. Whether that's expertise or not is questionable, but I do have it. I would like to be. I'm right now starting. It was Jim Vickers' idea years ago to start a stunt surf invitational.
Nice.
So I would like that to become established. I've been talking to. So I want it to be the Chris Carnell Stunt Surf Invitational, because Chris was an amazing guy, and I loved him, and I love that we think of Troy Melton every year when the Stuntmen's Association does their golf tournament, and so I want Chris to be thought of every year, and so that's in the works as we speak.
Amazing.
So I would like that to be fully established, the Chris Carnell Stunt Surf Invitational. He deserves it. He's quite possibly the greatest guy in stunts ever. The most uplifting, positive. You never left that guy without feeling like $1 million.
He was on set my first SAG day ever. Yeah.
Was he really?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, and I go to physical therapy with Wyatt, so the family is very, very dear to my heart. So.
Oh, well then, guess who I'm wrangling to come help with the Chris Carnell Stunt Surf Invitational?
Yes, you have the phone number.
All right, Mr. Jam Man.
We'll try to help.
Yeah, so I think that, and ultimately, I would like to. I think really my cause in life has been for. I want to see a stunt category in the Oscars, which is why I support the Emmys so heavily, because there are 3 stunt categories in the Emmys.
Yes, there are.
None in the Oscars. In fact, you don't even have a peer group. Do you know what they call you if you join? If they deign to let you join the Oscar Academy? Mm. You are a member at large.
Wow.
You don't even have a peer group.
Wow, crazy.
So to me, here's what it takes to join the Emmys, okay? Doesn't even have to be union. You have to have 10 credits that have run on television in the last 4 years. That's it.
Okay.
Worldwide. The more people that we get to join the stunt peer group at the Emmys, the greater leverage we have to get the Oscars.
Totally.
To go, look, we're 1,000 people. We're this many people. We're bigger than your peer group for this category.
Yeah.
that's a cause I feel passionate about. And let me be really clear. I did the Hollywood Reporter article that came out where I am basically calling the Academy discriminatory.
Yes.
Because I don't know what else to call it. I've thought of every possible thing. There needs to be a category, most certainly for stunt coordination, not second unit directing. Yeah. And for performers, I feel like the toughie about that is that I feel the person most responsible for something looking as good as it does is a stunt coordinator.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
I think.
Yeah.
When it comes to the action, and Terry said it, they deserve it. So I feel really strongly that needs to happen. And I'm always trying to figure out the way, how do we...
Yeah.
And I think getting a peer group is important.
Yeah. So
there needs to be a stunt peer group. And I think supporting the Emmys who support you when nobody else is. They've given 3 awards for stunts. There's the World Stunt Awards, which is fantastic. But everybody sees that kind of as it's not on television anymore, right?
It's not anymore. Yeah.
So it's an industry thing, and I love it, and it's super fun. It's fantastic. It's a great chance to see everyone. So I feel strongly about that. And, I would like my son, Journey Kim, to be married and give me children.
Oh, no pressure.
No pressure.
Poor guy. That's amazing. Well, I really appreciate you making the time to come on here. I know you had a busy schedule, even a busy day as we're sitting here. I know you have to venture off to some industry events right after the completion of this.
Emmy FYC events, because,
yes.
Again, I support the Emmys because they support the people I love the most.
Correct. Well, before we get out of here, though, can you look into this camera and let people know where they can continue to either A, stay up to date with your own personal journey, or shout out anything you want to? Most likely, also please remind people about Stunt Access, and we'll be sure to put everything on the screen for them to follow.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I'm Noelle Kim. You can find me at StuntAccess.com. You can email me, president@StuntAccess.com. Where else? I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. If you have any questions, if you want a demo of the site, first 30 days is free, so please come to StuntAccess.com and join up, and I'm happy to help you in any way I can.
Amazing. Guys, with that being said, please be sure to hit that like button, comment, and subscribe for brand new episodes each and every week. Join us every Monday for Jam Breakdowns and every Friday for a brand new JAMCast, interviewing influential members of the movement community like Miss Noelle Kim herself. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to give one more very special shout out. Thanks for coming through. I really appreciate your time and insight.
No, thank you.
We'll have to do it again sometime.
It's an honor. Thank you so much.
Oh, yes. And as always, guys, coming through, I'm your host, Travis Wong. Thanks for joining us here on another JAMCast. Until next time, we'll see you all soon. Peace.